Introduction to the Krelon and Humanity. In the vastness of space, where stars twinkled like distant dreams, two civilizations stood on the precipice of an unprecedented alliance. The Krelon, an ethereal race with elongated forms that glided gracefully through their home world, were unlike any species humanity had ever encountered. Their skin shimmered with a pale blue hue, reflecting light in mesmerizing patterns that seemed almost otherworldly. Yet beneath this enchanting exterior lay a culture steeped in wisdom, diplomacy, and an unyielding quest for knowledge. The Krelon had traversed the galaxy for centuries, earning respect among various civilizations, not through brute force, but through their ability to navigate complex political landscapes. They valued intellect over aggression, seeking allies rather than enemies. When first contact was made with humanity, it was clear that they were not here to conquer. They were searching for companionship in a galaxy fraught with danger. Humanity, emerging from its own turbulent history, was eager for such an alliance. The Earth had made remarkable strides in technology, yet it remained a fledgling player on the galactic stage compared to older civilizations. Humanity's thirst for exploration had led them into uncharted territories. But with each leap forward came the realization that they were vulnerable to more established powers. The Krelon's offer was not merely an invitation, it was a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. As discussions progressed, both sides recognized their mutual needs. The Krelon required protection from aggressive species like the Dravak, whose reputation for ruthlessness preceded them across the stars. In return, they offered humanity something invaluable: experience in galactic politics, advanced technology, and strategic insights honed over generations. This partnership was not just about military might. It was a fusion of knowledge and resilience. However, not all voices on Earth were in favor of this newfound alliance. Skeptics questioned whether humanity should involve itself in galactic affairs so soon. The Dravak were known for their brutal conquests. Entire planets had been laid waste by their relentless expansion. Aligning with the Krelon could be perceived as a direct threat by this formidable enemy. Yet Earth's leadership remained resolute. They believed that humanity had evolved significantly since its earlier conflicts, and that this alliance could bolster their defenses against impending threats. The first major meeting between human diplomats and Krelon leaders took place aboard a massive space station orbiting Earth, a neutral ground where both civilizations could engage without fear of hostility. Tension hung thick in the air as human representatives adjusted to the unique communication style of the Krelon, which relied heavily on subtle shifts in tone and body language that could easily be overlooked by those unfamiliar with their customs. Despite initial awkwardness, mutual respect began to blossom as both sides learned from each other. The Krelon admired humanity's adaptability. Humans marveled at the depth of Krelon's strategic thinking, an approach that considered multiple outcomes before taking action. It became evident that together they formed a formidable alliance capable of navigating the complexities of galactic politics. As weeks turned into months, intelligence reports began to surface about increasing Dravak activity near Krelon space. Scouts had been spotted probing defenses along the outer edges of Krelon territory. Small skirmishes erupted as Dravak ships tested their opponents' readiness for war. Each encounter served as a grim reminder that time was running out. It was only a matter of time before the Dravak would set their sights directly on Earth. The urgency escalated as Earth's military leadership convened emergency meetings to strategize responses to these provocations. They understood that they were being drawn into a conflict that had been brewing long before humanity even knew about the Dravak's existence. However, preparations were underway. Earth had spent years readying itself for potential interstellar conflict, investing heavily in advanced weaponry and training soldiers capable of facing extreme conditions. With each passing day, tensions mounted as Dravak ships began encroaching closer to Krelon space. Earth's fleets were dispatched to reinforce defenses along critical points marking the boundaries between allied territories. This marked a historic moment. Humanity's military would engage in warfare beyond its own solar system for the first time. As preparations continued, both species felt an undercurrent of unity forming between them, a bond forged out of necessity, but evolving into something deeper, solidarity against a common enemy. Despite their differences in culture and approach to warfare, they shared one goal: survival against overwhelming odds. In this fragile moment before conflict erupted across galaxies, hope flickered like distant stars illuminating darkened skies, a beacon guiding them toward an uncertain future where alliances would be tested and destinies intertwined amidst chaos. As whispers grew louder about impending doom brought forth by relentless foes lurking just beyond sightlines, a storm brewing on horizons unseen, the stage was set for an epic confrontation between light and darkness, where courage would be measured against fear itself. Preparing for war. As the alliance between the Krelon and humanity solidified, a sense of urgency permeated both civilizations. The Dravak threat loomed larger with each passing day, and preparations for war became the central focus of their efforts. The Krelon, who had long relied on diplomacy and subtlety, found themselves in a race against time to adapt to the harsh realities of conflict. Meanwhile, humanity, with its burgeoning military capabilities, was eager to prove its mettle on the galactic stage. Krelon strategic meetings. In the Grand Council chambers of Krelon Prime, leaders gathered to discuss their strategy in light of the escalating Dravak incursions. The room buzzed with tension as holographic displays projected real-time data on Dravak movements. Krelon representatives, with their graceful forms and shimmering skin, exchanged glances filled with concern. "Time is not on our side," spoke Eldarian, the chief strategist of the Krelon High Council. His voice resonated with authority as he pointed to a map highlighting recent skirmishes along their borders. "The Dravak are probing our defenses, searching for weaknesses. We must act decisively." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Krelon had long studied the Dravak's tactics, recognizing that their relentless nature was matched only by their cunning. Eldarian proposed a dual strategy: strengthen defenses while simultaneously preparing for a counteroffensive. "Humanity's military might is our greatest asset," he continued. "We must coordinate our efforts and utilize their technological advancements to bolster our defenses." Human military mobilization. On Earth, military leaders were equally aware of the stakes at hand. The United Earth Command, UEC, convened an emergency meeting in a high-tech war room filled with screens displaying intelligence reports from Krelon space. General Marcus Steele, a seasoned veteran known for his strategic acumen, addressed his fellow commanders. "The Krelon have provided us with invaluable insights into Dravak operations," he stated firmly. "We need to mobilize our fleets immediately and position ourselves along key sectors to intercept any potential invasions." The UEC's plans were ambitious. They aimed to deploy several dreadnoughts equipped with cutting-edge weaponry alongside Krelon ships. This would create a formidable barrier against any Dravak advances. "Time is of the essence," General Steele emphasized. "We must show the Dravak that we are united and prepared to fight back." Training and readiness. In preparation for the impending conflict, human soldiers underwent rigorous training exercises designed to simulate combat scenarios against Dravak forces. The soldiers were briefed on the unique attributes of their new allies. The Krelon's advanced technology and strategic insights would be crucial in understanding how best to engage the enemy. Drills took place in vast hangars filled with state-of-the-art equipment. Soldiers practiced boarding procedures for Krelon ships and learned how to operate unfamiliar technology that would be integrated into their own systems. Private Sarah Collins, a young recruit eager to prove herself, reflected on her training experience. "It's different fighting alongside another species," she noted during a break from drills. "But we're all in this together now. It feels like we're part of something much bigger than ourselves." Krelon Human Joint Operations. As preparations continued, joint operations between Krelon and human forces began to take shape. Tactical simulations were conducted where both species collaborated on strategies that combined their strengths, Krelon intelligence, and human firepower. During one such simulation, holographic representations of Dravak ships swarmed across a digital map as commanders from both sides strategized their responses. "Utilize flanking maneuvers," suggested Talaris, a Krelon tactician whose keen analytical skills had earned him respect among his peers. "Their formations are predictable. We can exploit that weakness." General Steele nodded in agreement. "We'll deploy our dreadnoughts here," he indicated on the map, while Krelon ships engage from above to disrupt their formations. The synergy between human and Krelon forces began to flourish as they honed their tactics together. Each successful simulation bolstered morale and reinforced their commitment to one another. Civilian preparations. While military forces prepared for war, civilians on both planets faced an uncertain future. On Krelon Prime, citizens were urged to evacuate vulnerable areas as military installations fortified defenses against potential attacks. In bustling cities once known for their tranquility, panic began to set in as families packed essential belongings into hastily assembled transports. The serene beauty of Krelon architecture became overshadowed by an atmosphere of dread as news reports detailed increasing Dravak incursions. On Earth, similar sentiments echoed among civilians as they learned about the impending conflict through news broadcasts. Many felt pride in their military's readiness, but also anxiety about what lay ahead. "I never thought I'd see war on this scale," remarked journalist Emily Torres during a live broadcast from a military base. "But humanity is readying itself for battle alongside our new allies." Final preparations. As days turned into weeks, both civilizations braced themselves for what was anticipated to be an unprecedented conflict in galactic history. The final preparations involved coordinating logistics for troops and supplies while ensuring communication lines remained open between human and Krelon forces. In high command centers across both planets, leaders exchanged messages filled with urgency. Updates on troop movements and intelligence reports flowed seamlessly between Earth and Krelon Prime. Eldarian received a transmission from General Steele one evening. "Our fleets are ready. We await your signal." With resolve etched across his features, Eldarian replied, "We will stand together against the Dravak tide." As tensions reached a boiling point and war loomed ever closer, hope flickered amidst uncertainty, a belief that unity could withstand even the most formidable adversary. The stage was set. Both civilizations stood poised at the brink of conflict. A clash that would test not only their military might, but also the very fabric of their alliance forged in desperation against an overwhelming foe. With every passing moment drawing them nearer to battle, they prepared not just for survival, but for victory, a chance to rewrite their destinies among the stars. First major conflict. As the Dravak fleet breached the Krelon outer defenses, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. What had begun as a series of skirmishes now escalated into full-scale war, and the Krelon found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The Dravak were not merely invading. They were executing a calculated assault designed to dismantle Krelon civilization piece by piece. The onslaught begins. The first wave of Dravak ships descended upon Krelon Prime with ruthless efficiency. Massive triangular vessels blotted out the sun, casting ominous shadows over the once peaceful cities below. Alarms blared throughout Krelon Prime as citizens scrambled for shelter, their tranquil lives shattered in an instant. The Krelon military, though experienced in defense, was unprepared for the sheer ferocity of the Dravak attack. In command centers across Krelon Prime, military leaders struggled to coordinate a response. Eldarian, the chief strategist, watched in horror as reports flooded in detailing the rapid collapse of their defenses. "We must regroup and counterattack," he urged his fellow commanders, but even he could see that their forces were being overwhelmed. The Dravak's strategy was brutal yet effective. They struck hard and fast, targeting key military installations and communication hubs to sow chaos among Krelon ranks. Each assault was meticulously planned to exploit weaknesses in Krelon defenses, and their relentless advance left little room for error. Human reinforcements arrive. Meanwhile, humanity's dreadnoughts raced through the void of space toward Krelon Prime. General Steele led the charge aboard the flagship U.S. Valor, a massive vessel bristling with weaponry and a crew ready to fight. "We're approaching Krelon space," he announced to his officers. "Prepare for immediate engagement." The human fleet had been trained rigorously for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare them for the sight that greeted them as they arrived at Krelon Prime. The planet was engulfed in flames, with debris from fallen ships floating in orbit, a grim testament to the ferocity of the Dravak assault. "Deploy our fighters," Steele commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding before him. "We need to establish a perimeter and protect any remaining Krelon forces." As human fighters launched from U.S. Valor, they joined the fray against Dravak ships already engaged in combat with what remained of the Krelon fleet. The sight of human vessels alongside their Krelon allies provided a glimmer of hope amid despair. However, it quickly became clear that they were outnumbered. The battle rages on. The battle escalated into a chaotic melee as both sides clashed in a brutal display of firepower. Human pilots maneuvered their sleek fighters through swarms of Dravak ships, firing lasers and missiles with precision while dodging incoming fire. The Krelon ships, though elegant in design, struggled against the relentless onslaught of their adversaries. On the ground, panic reigned as civilians fled from collapsing buildings and streets filled with smoke and debris. The once proud capital city of Krelon Prime was reduced to a battleground where survival became paramount. Families were torn apart as they sought refuge from advancing Dravak ground forces. Eldarian coordinated efforts from a command center deep within a hidden bunker beneath the capital. "We must hold our ground," he urged his fellow leaders, but even he could feel the tide turning against them. Reports came in that entire districts were falling to Dravak troops, merciless soldiers who showed no hesitation in executing anyone who resisted. A desperate counteroffensive. As hope began to wane, Eldarian devised a desperate plan for a counteroffensive. He knew that if they could disrupt one segment of the Dravak forces, it might buy them precious time for evacuation and regrouping. "General Steele," he transmitted urgently through their secure channels, "we need your fleet to target their supply lines. If we can cut off their reinforcements, we may turn this battle around." Steele nodded grimly as he received the message. "Understood," he replied firmly. "We'll strike at their supply ships immediately." Human dreadnoughts maneuvered into position, while fighter squadrons engaged Dravak vessels in dogfights above Krelon Prime's atmosphere. As missiles streaked toward Dravak supply lines like shooting stars, explosions lit up space, a brief flicker of hope amid overwhelming odds. The turning point. Just when it seemed that all was lost, reports began filtering in from various sectors, indicating that some Dravak supply lines had been successfully disrupted. The momentum shifted slightly. However, it was still not enough to turn the tide completely. On the ground, pockets of resistance formed among Krelon defenders who rallied together under Eldarian's leadership. "For our home," they shouted defiantly as they engaged Dravak soldiers with renewed vigor. But despite their bravery, it became increasingly clear that time was running out. The Dravak were relentless. They pressed forward with unyielding force, pushing deeper into Krelon territory, while systematically dismantling any organized resistance. The evacuation order. As reports came in detailing further losses and dwindling resources, Eldarian made the heart-wrenching decision to initiate an evacuation order for remaining civilians and military personnel alike. "Prepare all available transports," he commanded urgently. "We must save as many lives as possible." With heavy hearts, Krelon leaders coordinated evacuation efforts, while human forces provided cover against advancing Dravak troops. Transports filled with civilians took off from makeshift landing zones amid chaos, families clinging to one another as they boarded ships destined for safety. As transports lifted off into the sky above burning cities, Eldarion stood resolute but filled with sorrow at what was being lost, his people's history and culture crumbling beneath relentless assaults by an enemy bent on annihilation. Final stand against darkness. With each passing moment bringing more bad news from various fronts, hope dwindled further among both Krelons and humans alike. Yet within this darkness emerged a flicker of unity, a bond forged through shared struggle against overwhelming odds. As human dreadnoughts continued their fight against Dravak forces above, while evacuations proceeded below, both species understood that this battle would not define them. It would be merely one chapter in an ongoing struggle against tyranny. In those final moments before retreat became inevitable for many on both sides, when despair threatened to consume them, Eldarion raised his voice above chaos. "We will not be forgotten. We will rise again." His words resonated deeply within those who fought alongside him, their spirits ignited by an indomitable will to survive despite insurmountable odds. A new dawn. As darkness fell upon Krelon Prime and its once vibrant cities lay in ruins beneath advancing Dravak forces, a new chapter began not just for those who remained, but also for humanity itself. A chance at redemption forged through sacrifice amidst devastation. Though victory eluded them this day, the alliance between humans and Krelons would endure beyond this conflict, a testament to resilience against tyranny, where unity proved stronger than fear itself. In time, when dust settled over battlefields littered with remnants of war, the lessons learned would echo across galaxies far beyond what any one species could comprehend. A reminder that even in darkest hours, hope could still shine brightly if nurtured through courage and unwavering resolve. Turning the tide. As the Dravak forces surged relentlessly through Krelon Prime, the situation grew increasingly dire. The once vibrant cities of the Krelon were now mere shadows of their former selves, engulfed in flames and chaos. The Dravak had not only breached the outer defenses, but were now systematically dismantling the heart of Krelon civilization. With each passing hour, hope waned, and despair settled over both Krelon and human forces. The human fleet's arrival. Just as it seemed that all was lost for the Krelon, the human fleet finally arrived in orbit above Krelon Prime. General Steele stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valor, his eyes fixed on the chaotic scene unfolding below. The sight of Dravak ships overwhelming Krelon defenses filled him with a sense of urgency. "Deploy all available fighters," he commanded, his voice cutting through the tension. "We need to establish a defensive perimeter around the evacuation transports." As squadrons of human fighters launched from the Dreadnoughts, they dove into the fray, engaging Dravak ships with a ferocity born from desperation. The human pilots were determined to protect their Krelon allies, knowing that failure would mean not only the loss of Krelon Prime, but also a significant setback for humanity itself. The first waves of human fighters clashed with Dravak vessels, their laser cannons lighting up the dark expanse of space. General Steele coordinated attacks with Krelon commanders who had managed to survive the initial onslaught. Together, they formed a united front against their common enemy. "Focus fire on that cruiser," shouted Talaris, a Krelon tactician who had joined Steele on the bridge. "If we can take it down, we might disrupt their formation." The combined might of human and Krelon forces began to turn the tide in certain sectors. The Dravak were caught off guard by the sudden influx of reinforcements. Their initial confidence faltered as they faced a coordinated response from two species fighting for survival. Ground forces unite. While space battles raged overhead, ground forces from both civilizations prepared to mount a counteroffensive against Dravak troops that had already landed on Krelon Prime. Eldarion rallied what remained of the Krelon military alongside human soldiers who had come to their aid. "Today we fight not just for our survival, but for our future," Eldarion proclaimed to a mixed crowd of Krelon and human soldiers gathered in a makeshift command center. "We will reclaim our home." The soldiers cheered, their spirits lifted by Eldarion's words. They knew that this battle would be unlike any they had faced before, an all-or-nothing effort to push back against an enemy that threatened to obliterate everything they held dear. As they moved into position, Eldarion and General Steele devised a plan to retake key areas of the capital that had fallen into Dravak hands. They focused on strategic locations, communication hubs, and supply depots that would cripple Dravak operations if reclaimed. The counteroffensive begins. With determination driving them forward, Krelon and human forces launched their counteroffensive under cover of darkness. Utilizing guerrilla tactics honed through years of conflict, they struck swiftly and decisively at unsuspecting Dravak positions. Explosions rocked the night as coordinated attacks took out key targets. Human soldiers used advanced weaponry while Krelon warriors employed their unique abilities, manipulating energy fields to create shields or disorienting enemies with blinding light. The tide began to shift as pockets of resistance formed across Krelon Prime. Soldiers fought valiantly against overwhelming odds, reclaiming parts of their home one street at a time. The sight of unity between humans and Krelons invigorated them. They were no longer fighting alone. In one particularly fierce engagement near a communication relay station, Private Sarah Collins led her squad alongside Krelon defenders. "Cover me," she shouted as she sprinted toward an enemy bunker, her heart racing with adrenaline. With precision fire from her squad mates and energy blasts from Krelon allies, they breached the bunker's defenses and fought their way inside. Moments later, they emerged victorious. Communication lines restored and vital intelligence retrieved. A glimmer of hope. As news spread about successful operations across various fronts, morale surged among both species. They began to believe that victory was possible, that together they could repel the Dravak invasion and save what remained of their worlds. General Steele received updates from Eldarion about ongoing battles where human and Krelon forces fought side by side. "We're gaining ground," Eldarion reported breathlessly over the comms. "But we need more support. The Dravak are regrouping for another assault." "We'll send reinforcements immediately," Steele replied resolutely. "We'll make sure you have everything you need to hold your ground." As additional human troops arrived on Krelon Prime, they brought with them supplies and equipment that bolstered defenses significantly. The tide was turning. However, everyone knew that this was just a temporary reprieve. The real test lay ahead. The final confrontation. With renewed determination, both armies prepared for what would be one final confrontation against the Dravak forces gathered outside the capital city's ruins. Intelligence indicated that a massive Dravak fleet was poised to launch an all-out assault aimed at annihilating any remaining resistance. Eldarion stood alongside General Steele atop a makeshift command platform overlooking what remained of their city, a once thriving hub now reduced to rubble, but still filled with hope. "This is it," Steele said gravely as he surveyed their defenses being hastily fortified by both species engineers working together seamlessly despite cultural differences. "We either hold them here or lose everything." Eldarion nodded solemnly but felt a spark ignite within him, a determination fueled by camaraderie forged through adversity. "We will not let our worlds fall," he declared fiercely. The clash begins. As dawn broke over Krelon Prime, both armies stood ready for battle, their hearts united in purpose against an enemy determined to erase them from existence. The ground shook as Dravak warships descended upon their position like dark clouds rolling in before a storm, an ominous sign signaling impending doom, yet also igniting fierce resolve within those who stood ready to fight back. When battle commenced, it was chaos incarnate. Lasers flashed across open fields while explosions rocked structures still standing amid devastation. Soldiers fought valiantly side by side. Every inch gained felt monumental against overwhelming odds. Despite initial losses on both sides, the spirit remained unbroken among defenders who pushed forward, relentlessly refusing defeat, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges before them. Victory against all odds. Hours passed like days as fierce fighting continued. However, slowly but surely, Krelon and human forces began pushing back against Dravak lines. a testament not only to superior tactics, but also unwavering unity forged through shared struggle against tyranny. Finally, the moment came when Eldarion spotted an opportunity amidst chaos, a chance to strike at key command ships directing Dravak operations overhead. Without hesitation, he relayed orders rallying troops toward this pivotal target, a gamble worth taking. With renewed vigor fueled by desperation, the combined forces surged forward, launching one last assault aimed directly at crippling enemy leadership. Explosions erupted around them as they pressed onward, refusing retreat. Then, the impossible happened. As if fate itself intervened, a massive explosion rocked one of the leading command ships, sending debris scattering across battlefields below. Cheers erupted among defenders. Victory felt tangible. A new dawn. As dusk settled over what remained of Krelon Prime, the once dominant Dravak forces began retreating under relentless pressure from united armies fighting back ferociously. The tide had turned. Hope blossomed anew among survivors, witnessing resilience displayed through shared sacrifice. In those moments, amidst ruins left behind, a new alliance emerged, stronger than ever before, forged not merely by necessity, but also by bonds formed through shared struggles faced together against overwhelming odds. Eldarion turned toward steel amidst celebrations erupting around them, smiles breaking through grim faces worn from battles fought tirelessly day after day. "We did it," he whispered in disbelief, yet filled with pride. Steel nodded solemnly, acknowledging sacrifices made along the way. Lives lost forever, etched into memories shared between two civilizations now intertwined forevermore. "We stand united," he replied firmly, looking toward horizon, filled with possibilities awaiting them ahead. A future built upon lessons learned amidst adversity, faced together, forging paths forward into unknown realms beyond stars shining brightly above. As dawn broke anew, illuminating remnants left behind, a promise lingered in air surrounding those who survived. It whispered tales yet untold, waiting patiently for next chapters written together, forging destinies intertwined across galaxies far beyond imagination itself.